Don't get outfoxed. Understand the latest risks for Firefox users on Android.
So, Mike, you're bringing us a story about a bug on Firefox, but this time Firefox on Android, correct?
Yeah, this one's really interesting. I always appreciate really interesting hacks, and this one really caught my attention. So it was identified by an Australian security researcher who has made this issue known to the Firefox development community, and it is currently patched in version 80 of Firefox. So definitely want to make sure that it's updated. But the exposure itself was really interesting. Specifically, it resides inside of the Simple Service Discovery Protocol, or the SSDP portion of the Firefox web browser. And what this does is it's a UDP-based protocol that is part of universal plug-and-play for finding other devices on the local area network for use in screencasting and things along those lines. And on Android devices specifically, Firefox will every once in a while send out one of these discovery messages to find other devices connected to the same network, for these purposes. And so any listening device on that network can respond. And when they respond to that solicitation, Firefox will then attempt to access the location that they received in that response. And specifically what the browser will be looking for is an XML file that's going to conform to the universal plug-and-play specifications. However, an attacker can replace that file and actually pass intent messages to the Android smartphone or tablet that is on that same network as the attacker. And so what this means is that the attacker running a malicious SSDP server on their device can trigger remotely intent-based commands on these other devices through Firefox without requiring any kind of interaction from the victims themselves, which I find to be pretty elegant and kind of interesting. And so this will allow the attacker to spawn activities on the victimized device by passing the intent which describes that activity and any subsequent data or information needed to execute that. So they can have the victimized browser open a defined URL, which would then be used to trick victims into providing credentials, potentially installing malicious apps, or engaging in other activities very similar in scenarios that you'd see with regard to phishing, except for the fact that the victim doesn't need to actually click on anything or open anything in order to initiate that interaction. It happens as part of this discovery protocol. So this is considered a high-risk remote command execution vulnerability, and it really is a classic watering hole type of an attack. And while it has been patched in Firefox for Android versions 80 and later, we both know that a lot of individual users out there might not necessarily update their applications as often as they should. And so this leads to the potential for these types of exploitations occurring, particularly in any kind of a public Wi-Fi scenario where that public Wi-Fi is not enforcing isolated endpoint connections, for example.
Yeah, that was going to be my main question, right? Like how is an attacker actually getting to the I guess the network or the person has their phone in, but I guess people open up ports when they shouldn't, or public Wi-Fi scenario is a good one, I guess. So yes, like you could end up in a situation where you're in a public Wi-Fi where it's some restaurant that just bought a Wi-Fi router off whatever shelf, and it's just a regular network and everybody in it has access to each other. And then now you're, now there's a potential, vector for an attack. But so there's no interaction from the user at this point then? Or does the
None
user
required.
Okay.
And that's part of the thing that I love about this. And this isn't the first time you've seen kind of vulnerabilities like this triggered by these automatic peering or discovery protocols. I mean, over the years, we've seen, Cisco Discovery Protocol have some vulnerabilities associated with it, and others, and while these protocols are necessary and, certainly, bring something to the table, it's always, important to be cognizant of that danger, right? They can automatically discover things, and some of those things they discover might not be in your best interest or in alignment with their intended usage.
Yeah, this brings up the point. More convenience doesn't mean it's more mature and more secure. But this comes to the point you mentioned about SSDP. I guess I can't basically stop by mentioning SSDP is typically used in one of the top vectors you can use in reflective DDoS attacks. This actually, while talking about it, I was thinking about it because there's no interaction from the victim's devices. Now they will be part of a botnet, which they can perform in a DDoS attack of a large scale. SSDP itself is known for huge amplifications. This actually, I think it increases the risk that much more, I guess. So that brings to the table, I think it's always cognizant to, on top of things of patching of applications, operating systems, whatever it is. I think we can't stress enough to be on top of patching, right?
I was going to mention that, what Mike was brought up in before about the updating, that this has already been patched. Firefox already patched. This is actually something that we're a little lucky when it comes to browsers, right? Because I feel like the browsers for a while now have started to do a automatic update on by default for most users, right? Like you would have to go in out of your way to go into settings, find the check for updates, and apply automatically, and uncheck that. And so I feel that when it comes to browser vulnerabilities, it might be less likely to be spread out, right? Like most users on their phone are not going to their Play Store and being like, do not automatically update or something like that. So I'm hoping that because of that, this is just something cool to talk about and not something that is widespread.
And that is an excellent point as well. I wish more applications would take that automatic update example the browsers have embraced to heart, because it does prevent a lot of risks from persisting inside of environments. That having been said, proof of concept code has been released for this one. So certainly if anyone is exposed, there is actual proof of concept code out there. But hopefully it will be, an interesting talking point and not necessarily impacting to the enterprise per se.